And I don't think they are. But when you look at the rhetoric and you hear the talking points and look at the legislation that's put forward, what are we to say?
The gentleman will suspend. I want to remind the gentleman that you cannot engage in characterizing the other members' positions or calling their position, engaging in personality characterizations.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Hot News Today. Listen, the clip you just watched is another prime example of why these hearings get more chaotic by the day. We've got Foxx Schutz trying to bring some clarity and accountability, and instead the room turns into a blame-shifting, finger-pointing circus. And honestly, the way the conversation instantly got thrown into accusations, labels, and emotional theatrics, it says everything about the state of these debates. But trust me, we're going to break this all down in a way that actually makes sense, because someone needs to cut through the noise. Before we get into the full breakdown, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on all notifications, because you already know, Hot News Today brings the fire every single time.
Back. Does any member seek recognition? Mr. Bowman, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to strike the last word.
You're recognized for 5 minutes.
I would like to speak in opposition to this amendment for several reasons. Number one, since New York City has been mentioned multiple times, and since my background is as an educator in New York City schools, I just want to highlight for everyone in the audience and my colleagues across the aisle that New York City is what we consider a Title I district. It's a school system that cannot survive without the Title I funds that come from the federal government. The reason why the federal government had to step in, I believe, in 1965 to provide Title I resources to lower income communities is because of redlining that was allowed by the federal government in past legislation, which led to the underfunding, the chronic underfunding of schools simply based on race. If you were Black or Latino in a particular community, your schools were underfunded, while schools in white suburban communities that had access to federal funds to buy housing, those schools received additional funding. So now this amendment seeks to double down on prior racist policy by implementing present-day racist policies in targeting of Title I school districts. I also want to take exception to the term invasion as we describe what's happening here with migrants coming to our country seeking asylum. There's a long history of that word invasion being used to describe migrants, particularly from Latino countries, coming into our country by white supremacists in their fear-mongering around the arrival of immigrants in our country. So I take incredible exception to that word invasion. We are not being invaded. People are coming here to seek asylum, as is the history of the United States. Much of this anti-immigrant rhetoric and policy is aligned to something called the Great Replacement Theory, which was condemned by this Congress in last Congress, and I am proud to be the author of that resolution. The Great Replacement Theory states that the white race is under attack by blacks, Jews, and immigrants, and we must do something about it. And many of the mass shooters in our country have identified the Great Replacement Theory as being the motivating factor to their mass shooting, including the Buffalo mass shooting in upstate New York. So the hateful, divisive rhetoric is in the resolution. The hateful, divisive rhetoric is a part of one of the amendments. The hateful, divisive rhetoric is historical as per redlining, and the anti-immigrant sentiment is directly connected to the Great Replacement Theory. Now, I know none of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle will admit to being racist, and I don't think they are. But when you look at the rhetoric and you hear the talking points and look at the legislation that's put forward, what are we to say?
The gentleman will suspend. I want to remind the gentleman that you cannot engage in characterizing the other members' positions or calling their position, engaging in personality characterizations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just very frustrating because it seems like the legislation itself engages in personalities when it refers to a group of people that is derogatory. So if the legislation is doing it, and we're using words on the other side of the aisle like invasion, as if it's an army coming to our country, is that not personalities? Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
All right, now that we've seen the whole exchange, let's talk about what actually happened here, because wow, there's a lot to unpack. First off, Foxx came into this hearing focused on the amendment and the real-world impact it has on schools and funding. Straightforward, direct, and sticking to policy, that's what these hearings are supposed to be about. But what happened? The moment Foxx highlighted concerns and pushed back, the entire conversation derailed into emotional rhetoric and historical lectures that didn't even address the actual amendment. The way Bowman shifted the conversation into race, redlining, white supremacy, and even the Great Replacement theory. It was like watching someone light a match in a fireworks factory. Instead of debating the present-day policy, Bowman chose to reframe everything as some kind of moral battle. And let's be real, this tactic gets used way too often to shut down discussion rather than engage with it. Foxx wasn't attacking anyone. Foxx wasn't labeling anyone. Foxx simply challenged the language used in the amendment and questioned how Title I schools would be affected. That's called doing the job. But suddenly, Foxx gets drowned out by accusations and historical guilt tripping that had nothing to do with the substance of the argument. Then we get to the term invasion. Look, Foxx wasn't using it as an attack on any group. Foxx was reacting to the fact that real communities, real states, and real border towns are overwhelmed. That's not racism. That's reality. But instead of acknowledging that, Bowman jumped straight to linking it with white supremacist talking points. That is a massive, unfair leap. And you could feel the tension when Foxx tried to keep the discussion on track, only for the room to drift deeper into personal accusations. Even the chair had to step in and remind Bowman not to characterize colleagues in that way. Yet Bowman kept pushing the narrative that the legislation itself was somehow racist. Look, intent matters. Context matters. And Foxx was clearly focused on policy, not personalities. If anything, Foxx demonstrated patience by not escalating the conversation further. That shows leadership in a room where emotions were already boiling over. At the end of the day, this is the problem with these hearings. Instead of honest debate, we get emotional explosions that make it impossible to even ask basic questions. Foxx came prepared. Foxx came focused. And Foxx made the stronger, clearer case. And the frustration? Absolutely justified. If legislation includes language that can be misinterpreted, you challenge it. That's not attacking people, that's doing the job the American public expects. And Foxx delivered that clarity today despite all the noise thrown into the room.